Greetings everyone, my name is Dominic and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today I did a fun kind of topical video to showcase a recent purchase. I'm calling this video my biggest FOMO purchase ever. For those that perhaps don't know, FOMO is an acronym standing for Fear of Missing Out. And I know that FOMO can be a dirty word in the collecting community, I understand that, but for me, this volume was just too good to pass up on. Rumored to be the only print run this omnibus will ever receive, although personally, I say never in the world of comic books, but for right now, certainly. If you haven't guessed it yet, yes, I am absolutely talking about the collaboration between DC and Marvel Comics. We're going to be looking at the DC versus Marvel Omnibus. Because I haven't fully read this book, I'm not going to be providing a review today. I also didn't just unbox it. I'm just kind of doing a quick coverage on it. I'm really not going to do a ton of spoilers other than a couple images that might get flipped through in the course of the video. We will cover the first looks of the book, build of the book, and a couple of the notable stories, and you can think of this basically like a bird's eye overview, taking a look at this impressive release. I hope it helps some prospective collectors out there decide if they want to go ahead and jump in on this book or not as well. And again, just a fun way to showcase a new release. And if you are considering picking up a copy while it's still in print, I definitely recommend checking out the channel's sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. You can find a link for it in this video's description, and if you see this or any other book you'd like on that website, you can use my discount code at checkout, TheComicBookReport, to save $2 off of your order. Please note if you use my affiliate link or code to make a purchase, I will earn a small commission, but it's a fantastic way to support the channel. Thank you for considering. Now let's get more into this book. Looking at the front cover here, I should say, if it's not immediately evident, I did get the standard George Perez cover. There was also a Jim Lee direct market variant. I'll throw up a quick thumbnail so you can compare. I actually preferred the standard cover. I think seeing art more indicative of the time I thought was just the move here. I really do love Jim Lee artwork, and you do get a kind of a copy of this printing in the back extras of the omnibus itself. So even if you opt for the standard, as I have here, you will still get a look at that other cover for those interested. Taking a look at the spine, I do think the design is fairly unique. It's not my personal choice for aesthetic, but I do like that you get a mashup of all these DC and Marvel greats. I think it's pretty cool. I like seeing the title on the spine. If it wasn't obvious as well, this was put out by DC Comics, so I consider it a DC Omnibus first rather than a Marvel one, so we don't have that Marvel Omnibus logo or anything like that. The back cover of this omnibus I do quite like. We get more samplings of the artwork, we get a little bit of a blurb about the collection, what it collects, pricing, things like that. All pretty standard stuff, but like I said, I am a fan more of the back cover here. I just do think it's quite striking. And after I do one more full shot of this back cover, the dust jacket, we will transition over to do one final minute on the full dust jacket, including interior flaps, and take a look at the hardback book itself. Okay, and as promised here, we're going to go ahead and take off the dust jacket so you can see everything in full. This time, again, showing you those interior flaps and just seeing everything at a glance. I do believe for the direct market cover, I believe Jim Lee's cover is a full wraparound dust jacket, so I don't have that as a reference point other than that front cover I showed you a thumbnail of earlier. This clearly is not a wraparound dust jacket, but I am happy to say we do have a wraparound image on the hardback book itself. And as we transition to our look at the hardback book, I should say I believe the direct market and standard market covers should have the identical same book. So regardless of what dust jacket cover you got, both hardbacks should look just like this. We have this epic confrontation battle here between all the different characters. I love this wraparound cover. I think it's an absolutely perfect way to deck out this book. Honestly, just such a great hardback book. Perfect choice here by the graphic designers or whoever put this together. Bravo DC, bravo Marvel, good stuff here. Okay, and I did want to show a quick look at the binding. As you can see here, it is a glued binding, not a sewed binding as far as I can tell. Definitely lots of glue here. There's also really not much of an eye, so we do have some pretty steep gutter loss here. Like I said, I haven't made my way all the way through it as a reader yet, so I'm not sure what falls into that gutter as far as dialogue and stuff. I have had collections with worse gutter loss, but it just should be noted, and I wanted to give you an idea looking at it. The binding could also relax a bit as I read through the book, so again, just something else to note. Okay, and now to make our way into the book proper, we open up the book to some great DC versus Marvel end pages. I actually think these are a ton of fun. We have a title page, we have kind of the creator breakdown page, publication information. We do have a full table of contents, which I love to see, followed by a grand introduction. After that, we launch into our first crossover, which is a Superman meets Spider-Man story. Yes, these are some two just absolute titans of their respective publishers. Absolutely, we had to get them both together. I think as I begin my flip through here, I will go ahead and tell you the contents of this book. So this omnibus collects Superman versus the Amazing Spider-Man, issue 1, Marvel Treasury Edition, issue 28, DC Special Series, issue 27, Marvel and DC Present, featuring the Uncanny X-Men and the New Teen Titans, issue 1, Batman Punisher, Lake of Fire, issue 1, Punisher Batman, Deadly Knights, issue 1, Darkseid versus Galactus, The Hunger, issue 1, Spider-Man and Batman, issue 1, Green Lantern Silver Surfer, Unholy Alliances, issue 1, Silver Surfer Superman, issue 1, Batman Captain America, issue 1, Daredevil Batman, issue 1, Batman Spider-Man, issue 1, Superman Fantastic Four, issue 1, Incredible Hulk versus Superman, issue 1, and finally Batman Daredevil, issue 1. So we have a really packed out book here. It should be noted that the Justice League versus the Avengers crossover is not included in this collection. I think that that's really the one big omission from this book, but still a lot of fantastic crossovers. A lot of your main ones here. I know I used to have some of these stories printed in a paperback collection or two, so I have dabbled with some of this material in the past. I think my dad actually had a couple of these issues as well in floppy. As we continue to make our way through, a couple more facts about this book. If you can't tell, it is nice glossy print paper stock. I already mentioned it had that glued binding we took a look at, and it has a total of 960 pages. A ton of creators on this book as well. Obviously, with so many different crossovers, it changed hands quite a few times. A couple authors of note like Denny O'Neil, Dan Jurgens, illustrations, some of my favorite by George Perez. But yeah, a lot of different stories here. I also like that this book really does span, a couple decades of content. We have older looking art styles to some that look a bit more modern. I think some of the stories in this book came out maybe early 2000s or late 90s, if I'm not mistaken. So we have a nice range of when these crossovers came out. So a lot of different flavor for collectors that maybe run the gambit of when they like to read, from comic book history, things like that. And again, I can't emphasize enough that I am still just dabbling in this collection, and what I have read extensively from it, I've read in those paperback formats from years and years ago. But in my memory, there isn't really one overarching story arc here. No, these are much more episodic or kind of one-off issues. I also don't believe there's a huge canonical reason why these universes kind of got blended together, or not blended, but they happen to be in the same space. I think they just kind of are for a lot of the crossovers. So I think there is a little bit of suspension of disbelief as far as how did these heroes get together or intermingle. They just kind of did in a lot of cases, but still absolutely entertaining. I think a lot of these stories do hit, and like I said, it kind of hits that nostalgia for me as well. Like I said, I did experience some of these comics earlier in my comic reading or collecting journey, and I imagine that's a similar space for a lot of people that picked up this volume, maybe remembering it from the past or as a collector's item or purely the novelty of having this on the shelf. Yes, it's the two biggest comic book publishers coming together in one single omnibus volume. I certainly get the draw here, but yeah, a lot of these stories are just kind of one-offs. I will say I do love to see some of the pairings. Like a couple stories in here I have not read that I really am excited to check out are like the Darkseid Galactus crossover. Like what a cool mashup of characters from those universes. I also think Fantastic Four Superman sounds like a really fun combo. Green Lantern and Silver Surfer make a ton of sense in my mind. I think that one sounds pretty fun. And then being a huge Daredevil fan, the fact that he crosses over in this volume with Batman twice, yeah, absolutely excited to dive in. I've actually dabbled a little bit in those issues already. I would love to hear, spoiler-free please, if you have read these crossovers or you read this entire omnibus already, what were your general impressions of this collection? Like I said, I'm still newer to this content. I've read a little bit, but not a ton, and certainly not enough to make a full, committed opinion to what I feel about the collection as a whole. But for people that have already maybe had those couple steps ahead, what did you think of the content included? I think for me, it's certainly novel, but it feels, again, more like a novelty. This is not one grand ongoing comic book run or one one that really builds the lore or kind of mythos for your characters here. These are just kind of fun what if happenstance kind of I don't want to say gimmicky, but there is certainly a level of this was very well constructed between these two publishers to come together in this way to probably sell books. I did get a little bit of wish fulfillment seeing some of my characters share the same page at the same time, but beyond that, I haven't been wowed by a ton of what I'm reading here. The art is certainly great, the writing's not bad, but again, I think I like to sink my teeth deeper into like a longer ongoing run with kind of a bigger, more impactful mythos or something that really does something with these characters, or, you know, certainly big events that have ramifications in the continuity. But this is still fun. I think for me, it's in a similar category to like when I read the What If comics or maybe some of Elseworlds, where you don't really feel like it always hits with, you know, your main characters in the same way. I think I actually do get a little bit more attached with Elseworld stories at DC because I feel like in many cases there we have full story arcs where you get kind of more of a fleshed out story beginning, middle, and end. I think that this book reminds me closer to Marvel What If series that I've read in the past, which it's like single issues, kind of just one shots. What if this happened in like a parallel world? And while those can be fun, again, it almost feels kind of gimmicky to me, and I don't always feel like it has stakes with these characters in ways I enjoy. So I do still enjoy this book. That was actually why I was on the fence about this book to begin with, why it was personally for me a FOMO choice, or fear of missing out, because I think ultimately I had read some of these issues as a younger man, and I did want these in my collection. I loved the idea of a crossover between my two favorite publishers. I loved the fact that it's supposed to be a limited run, and, you know, to have it on my bookcase, it seemed like something I'd want more than not want. When I got it in the mail, I was super excited to have the collection, and flipping through it, I'm like, okay, I am actually excited to read many of the issues here, but I think why I didn't just immediately pre-order it, why I didn't immediately think I was going to get it right off the bat, was just because did I prefer to read something that felt like inconsequential to the overall continuity, or maybe in a way, like I said, gimmicky, versus like a really prolific creator run on something that I've heard really good accolades for. I think in general I would have preferred that, but ultimately the FOMO got me, and I have no regrets that it did. You know, I saved up for this book. I used a gift card for this book. I got it from the channel sponsor, Organic Price Books. It was shipped with care, as always. And again, I have no regrets. I'm so happy I got it. But it was a FOMO purchase for me, and that's really why. But what I have read of it, I have enjoyed, like I said, and I am curious to see personally what I think about it myself once I finish it all the way through. But again, I do really welcome the feedback for those that have read more of these stories than I have. What were your impressions of this book? I think that's probably a good point to stop with my flip through of the issues. I'm going to go ahead and skip forward to a lot of the extras, because I think that this is another area that a lot of people might be interested in for prospective collectors out there. We do have a great kind of afterword and a ton, and I mean a treasure trove of bonus material. We have a lot of kind of prints of original art or outline kind of work here. For those that really like to see how the sausage is made, so to speak, kind of behind the scenes of what the creators did, especially the artists, this is a wonderful collection in that regard. We got extras from so many of the stories included in this book, and with so many creators across everything that's included here, you get a lot of behind the scenes stuff for many, many different creators as far as their process or what their outlines look like, their pencil work look like, things like that. I was very pleasantly surprised with the amount of extras we got. I will be flipping through here, so you're not even going to see every piece of extra included in the book. I'd like to save something for collectors out there, but I did want to give you a good sampling of the extras. It's a very, very healthy section at the back of this. We also have two full-on fold-out pages that give you the wraparound image for what's on the hardback book itself, and the wraparound image I mentioned that they used for that Jim Lee direct market cover. I love these little fold-ins. You know, DC released this with like the new version or new edition of the Death and Return of Superman Omnibus. We had a nice fold-out of that during that issue, which I loved. Marvel Comics had a really good one during the Ultimates Omnibus, so I have seen this a couple times in omnibus formats, but I always think it's a fun feature just because it makes the book feel in some ways larger than life. It's a really, really fun extra, and I'm really happy the printers were able to handle it. It looks really great, and I thought that that was a fun feature. Okay, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up what I'm calling my biggest FOMO comic purchase ever, the DC vs. Marvel Omnibus. I hope you enjoyed this quick overview. If I do end up finishing this book sometime soon, I will plan to do a full review, but it might be a minute. Honestly, it's not high priority on my reading list at the moment, but I did want to go ahead and showcase it. I know I've had a couple commenters ask if I picked it up or what I thought about the book. Here are some of my early preliminary thoughts and feelings. I hope you've enjoyed the ride. I'd also love to hear, have you picked up this book? Have you read it? Do you plan to get the kind of companion piece to this, the Amalgam Omnibus? Definitely something that I'm interested in talking about, so let's get some good discussions going in the comments section. And thank you everyone for watching again. This has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to give this video a like, that comment we talked about, and maybe check out another video on your way out. Thanks everyone. Bye.